Hey everyone, welcome to today's DeFi Weekly video, where I essentially explain how to keep your crypto safe. This video was actually inspired from a friend who called me up and was curious as to all of these options to say earn interest or like do the stuff with crypto, but like how do you keep it safe, especially when you hear about stories of like some exchange getting hacked or the guy who forgot his crypto in a USB drive and now searching through the dumpster. So this video is probably more so for the less DeFi savvy one's view, and more so for the beginners. So if this is too basic, feel free to skip it out. I won't be offended. But if this sounds interesting, I hope that after this video, you are a lot more cautious about how to deal with crypto and you understand how to actually keep it safe and what the different risks are. So let's first start off with the basics, how public/private keys work. So the simplest way to think about that is that when you interact with anything on the blockchain, right, it always comes from what's known as your public address, right? This is kind of like your how other people on the network identify you, right? It's kind of like a username of sorts, right? Now, this public address will say like, so let's suppose that this is 0xabc. So on the network, you'll see things like 0xabc sent to 0xxyz, like 10 ETH or something, right? It's kind of like everyone who can identify that through this unique string, this is everything you've done and everything you've interacted with on the public ledger. Now, how do you actually authorize a transaction from you as your address? That's essentially where your private key comes along. So if this is your signature essentially, right? And this is something that you never want to tell anyone. Like, this is just, keep this to yourself, right? Or this is what actually gives you authorization to act on behalf of this address. So when you authorize a transaction, let's say this private key is like this a string called password, right? In reality, it actually looks like another 0x like 1 2 3 4 5. Actually, you know what, let's not use this example. Let's stick with 0x 1 2 3 4 5. Let's say that's your private key. So when you is 0x12345 send 10 ETH to Bob, right? It basically creates this magical new string, and this string will say that 0xabc produced this signature, or not the signature, I say this output, right? And through magic cryptography, you can actually check that if this output was signed by this public key without actually knowing this signature itself, right? That's kind of the beauty of it. So I can use this signature to sign a piece of data, and I can verify, or anyone can verify, that this piece of data over here was signed by this public key over here. And that's kind of like how a transaction is authorized on the network. So whoever controls the private key is the person who essentially controls your money, right? Now, going up, you've got this notion of hot wallets and cold wallets. So as you can imagine, the string, right, is extremely, extremely valuable. So like, let's say the private key is actually 0x12345. It's actually going to be a much longer string than this, but for example's sake. Now, the thing is, if anyone, like any computer, any server, any thing sees the string, it will actually know that this is a private key and I should steal the money out of it. So therefore, like from a security perspective, if this key touches any kind of digital device which is connected to the internet, you assume that it's a hot wallet essentially, because any device which is connected to the internet can find a way out. It's almost like if there's even a remote chance that this could be scraped out from the place which holds it, you assume it's a hot wallet. So examples of hot wallets, right? If the private key is stored inside your web browser, that's a hot wallet. If it's stored as a photo in your camera collection, right, it's immediately a hot wallet. If it is, I guess, like a wallet which is on your computer, right, your computer is connected to the internet, so it's a hot wallet. With the photo, it's actually because like Apple/Google own your photos, so you assume it's basically owned by them. Your web browser, you don't know any extensions or other malicious software which can steal this away, right? An example of another hot wallet would be sometimes a mobile phone, but not always. So I'll kind of get into the reason why. Essentially, mobile phones, well, at least iOS, I don't know about Android. This is meant to be cold wallet. So mobile phone, on the other hand, actually, it's kind of in between these two, because like, for example, in iOS, you have what's known as like a secure enclave, and it's this ultra secure piece of actual physical hardware inside a phone, which is only authorized if the user authorizes it. And you can kind of be guaranteed by Apple's amazing engineering that like anything secret which you store in the secure enclave will not be leaked. For Android, I don't know what they have, but I'd be a bit more skeptical. So anyway, iOS is kind of like in between, and that's, I think, like why it makes a really good in between option for a lot of people is like a wallet. Now, the cold wallet is literally when you write your private key on paper somewhere, right? That is a cold wallet. This isn't connected to the internet, and it's only like if you, like, nothing knows about this. Now, another example is a hardware key. So this is what they call our security key. So it's like usually a Trezor or a Ledger. These are the brands. And it's a little USB key which you plug in. And this actually holds your private key, right? It stores it inside this device. And anything, any computer that it's connected to, right, will go here and say, hey, I'd like to, say, spend this much. And it shows you on its little screen over here, are you sure you want to spend this much? And if you do, it sends a signed data bit. There's actually like this physical separation between these two. And the way that these kind of work in case you lose these keys is that these have recovery phrases. So these recovery phrases are the private keys, or sorry, let me come again. It's the recovery phrase is also known as a seed phrase, and it's 24 words, such as like dog, apple, bat, camera. It's just a bunch of like short 24 words, but when you put these together, Ashley can reconstruct the private key itself, right? And that's kind of, I'd say, like what the gold standard is for consumers, where you have a hardware wallet and you have a recovery phrase. So what a lot of people do is like you buy your Trezor, your Ledger, you record your seed phrase, you store that somewhere safe, and then even if you lose the device, you can keep interacting and you own your private keys. And then the example of another cold wallet is, let's see. I think that's probably about it. Maybe if you write it on metal or you engrave it in gold or on your skin, people do some pretty wild stuff. Yeah, so, or I guess if you remember it, yes, some people do actually remember 24 words like their life depends on it because their money quite literally depends on it. Uh, I wouldn't recommend doing this though, because if something happens to you, you basically take away everything as well. So, anyway, that being said, let's kind of talk about this third part, which is self custody versus third party custody. So, most people, when they enter in crypto, you kind of have like some kind of exchange, right? And this exchange is maybe like Coinbase, it's maybe Binance, or it's some exchange which is local to your country, right? And step one is you like upload documents about yourself. Step two is you kind of wire money to them. And step three, you buy on their platform, right? You buy like the Ethereum or whatever it kind of is that you want. Let me just write that. Cool. Now, the thing about exchanges and why they're so risky is that the exchange, let's say it's got $100 million worth of other people's money. It's essentially one single private key, which is usually on a hot wallet because it has to be available for people to trade with, or there might be a portion cold, but majority of it will actually probably be in some kind of hot wallet, right? And this $100 million, you're basically hoping that either the team doesn't say, oh, whoops, we accidentally got hacked and walk away with $100 million, or they actually get hacked itself, right? So I know Binance, the most secure one, has actually been hacked for $40 million before. They repaid that full amount, but they could because they're Binance and they have a reputation. But for other exchanges, I think there's been like literally billions of dollars lost with exchange hacks. So like when you leave your money on exchange, you're hoping that the people who hold it won't run off with it. So what's the kind of like alternative? And that's kind of where self-custody comes in, right? That's where essentially you own your own, say, hardware wallet. Sorry about that. You own your own hardware wallet and you buy on an exchange or whatnot, and then you immediately transfer the funds to your own self-custody so that you own your private keys, right? Because the private key owned by the exchange means they literally own your money. They can do anything they want with it, and there's nothing you can do to stop them. And that's like the really, really big difference between self-custody versus third-party custody. And that's also the difference between DeFi and CeFi. So centralized finance, you have to send funds to someone else. Decentralized finance, you own your funds and interact with smart contracts, right? There's no like single private key or single person which you're trusting or company directly. Of course, some smart contracts do have, say, admin controls, but that's a lot different to like an admin who owns the private key itself. Yeah, so hopefully that gives you a good overview about what DeFi is and kind of at a glance what CeFi is. And this kind of exchange comparison, it's kind of also the difference between different lending protocols. So if you have Compound and say Crypto.com or Nexo, the difference between, or say Aave, the difference is Crypto.com, Nexo, you're essentially giving your money to like the team more or less and hope they don't steal your money. Versus with Compound or with Aave, you can read the code and make sure it does exactly what it says it does, and it's completely trustless and you're not relying on the benevolence of certain people, because instead you're relying on making sure that the code does what it does. And some people may say it's more risky, but so far the amount of money hacked or lost via DeFi is magnitudes less than CeFi. So yeah, I guess hopefully that gives you a really good overview of how to keep your crypto safe. And for real, stay safe out there. Things are going to get really crazy. And the last thing you want is to lose your money because someone else made off with it for personal gain. Anyway, likewise, subscribe, share this, subscribe to the newsletter. You know the drill. It's in the description below. Peace out. Bye.